My name is Kerrie, and my goal is to inspire healing and meaning in all areas of life. In this podcast, we will dive deep into conversations. From heartbreak to freedom, we will explore different self-care modalities, learn to be the best expressions of ourselves, and to live with purpose. I'm here to offer my personal insights and to share my story in hopes that it will guide you on your path. This is Heal with Care, a journey of self-discovery. Entrepreneurship isn't for the faint of heart. It's a lot of hard work, it's being resourceful, figuring things out as you go, and if you're like me and you're the only person in your business, it can sometimes feel lonely. For years, I wanted to be my own boss. I craved the flexibility, and I wanted to create my own schedule. Plus, I wanted to spend more time with the people that mattered to me the most. It's easy to say I want to be my own boss, but being able to stay afloat financially while running your own business is a whole other story. My first year as an entrepreneur has its many ups and downs, with many challenges in between. I had to learn through trial and error how to market my business as well as to put myself out there. I had to do a lot of research, test the markets, and navigate through many different tech programs and subscriptions that I believed would be helpful for me and my business. I had to use my personal savings to get my business started, make some big decisions, and the list goes on. All of this can seem overwhelming and very intimidating. I know because most of the times I was questioning if I was even making the right decision. For years, my corporate career felt like it was a chore, and I always wanted to step away and do something that I was more passionate about, something that felt more purposeful. So you can say to some degree, I knew deep down that there was something greater out there for me. There was this deep part of my soul that wanted freedom, especially when I was struggling with the seasonal ups and downs. For a long time, I never understood why sometimes I would be so happy and full of life, while other times I just felt like I was suffering severely mood-wise. I later learned that I changed with the seasons. So what that means is, similar to nature itself or many wildlife animals, they tend to hibernate or rest more during the winter months and are much more active in the spring and summer. After I learned this, my life started to make sense. What we were taught with the constant working 9-to-5 jobs isn't necessarily what our bodies were meant to do. We were meant to have seasons to let go, seasons to rest, seasons to be creative, seasons to take action. I wanted to be able to honor how I felt with the seasons, living from a place that felt much more aligned. In today's world, I feel like we are constantly busy with very little time to rest and recharge. Without getting that rest that we need, I find that more and more people are becoming exhausted, experiencing burnout, and facing a lot of health issues. As a result, many people are seeking alternate ways to live a healthier, more balanced lifestyle. Personally, I remember every year pushing through the exhaustion. I felt like a zombie, I was barely present, my body was starting to show its wear and tears. All I knew was that during these times, I needed rest, but mentally, I felt guilty for taking that time for myself. This would often leave me feeling low on energy and resulting in multiple health issues. What I craved was to be able to work when I was feeling inspired and motivated, and when I needed the rest, I would be able to take that time off until I was feeling better. I wanted to work with the rhythm of my body. I didn't want to work until I felt exhausted and sick. I wanted to be as creative as I wanted to, without restrictions, doing what my heart desired. I wanted to go to the beat of my own drum, living my own truth and showing up as my best self. In 2024, I quit my corporate job, took a risk, and moved to a small town to be with a man that I love. This wasn't easy because I already had a good and stable job. But over the years, the apartment I was living in had new landlords. And let's just say these new landlords became an absolute nightmare. So to some degree, I felt like the universe was pushing me to go. So I packed up my things and decided to start fresh. I quickly realized that after a couple of months that there weren't many job opportunities in this new town. So I decided to do something different, something that I've always wanted to do, which was to start my own business. The only question was, where would I start and how would I do it? I had worked as a graphic designer for many years, so I decided to create my own logo. I designed my website and I started to write content. I knew I wanted to be a spiritual entrepreneur and share my love for the different spiritual practices that have helped me tremendously over the years. The first year in a new town was the hardest. I met a couple of people and later discovered that they weren't actually aligned with me. I was very optimistic yet naive, and I believed that everyone I met would have had the best intentions. What I forgot was that everyone is on their own journey. We all have free will and free choice, and we are here to choose what we want to do with that. Sometimes when we are walking on a path, we may run into some people. Those people could walk alongside us for a while, or we might end up taking different paths. To me, it felt like we were trying to walk next to each other, but really we needed to get back onto our own path. Because I was just starting out, I felt like I should say yes to every single opportunity that came my way. But what I quickly realized was that not everyone shared the same vision or values as me. I learned that I needed to be far more discerning with who I worked with because I noticed how other people's energies was impacting my own. I also had to be intentional about the opportunities I pursued. That lesson came through a couple of failed collaborations that ended poorly, leaving me feeling defeated and so close to giving up on my dreams altogether. After taking some much needed time to grieve over what I felt like was a failed start to my business, I decided it was time to pick myself up again. I decided to put together a list of my personal values and I began setting some boundaries. There was so much I wanted to do, but realistically, I couldn't do it all. I really loved interacting with people in person, and I really wanted to offer people a sanctuary where they can just unwind and come back to themselves. My inspiration was from my own personal experiences. When I felt lost, when I felt like I had no place to turn, I was looking for somewhere, anywhere that I can retreat and get away from the noise. I was looking for a place of solitude, a place where I can feel more like me and more at peace. I remember when I was struggling, my spirit guides guided me to a meditation group that eventually led me to mediumship, where I had this whole new perspective on life. I eventually learned about Reiki, which gave me the space to process my emotions and to let go of the things that I no longer need to hold on to. And yoga has always been a physical practice that kept me in my body and brought my attention into the present moment. Each one of these practices has benefited me in so many ways. I was now ready to fully launch my business nearly a year later, except this time I was doing things differently. I did a lot of inner work to prepare myself, building confidence in myself from the inside. I had been bouncing ideas and talking to my partner, but I was looking for something more. So I decided to hire a mentor that understood the energetics of my business. I needed someone who could hold my hand, give me advice, and keep me accountable. Before I hired anyone, I had spent a lot of time learning about local business organizations, grants and funding, and mentorship programs. As much as I wanted these free resources to work for me, they just weren't. No one understood my business model, the services I offered, and I felt like I was going in circles. I felt like I was wasting so many hours trying to make something work that just wasn't. So I decided to take a major step and I hired someone who was aligned with me and my energy and knew exactly what I was looking for. The person I hired had built many successful businesses. This was a major investment, but it was an investment in my future. My mentor often said, give a man to fish and you feed him for a day, or teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. This was true because what I received out of working with her was a wealth of knowledge that can carry me for the rest of my life. Not only was it focused on business, it was focused on the energy or frequency that I put out into the world. It gave me a whole new perspective on how to run my business in a way that honors who I'm becoming. With my mentor's guidance, I began to take action. I took my first leap by letting the universe know that I was serious about doing this work. I began purchasing equipment, booking rental spaces for sound healings, and I began registering for psychic fairs and local events. I was doing everything and anything I could to get my business off the ground. I wore every hat you can think of. I was the administrator, PR person, content specialist, event planner, graphic designer, web designer, content writer, and so much more. One of my biggest challenges was showing up in spaces where my future clients could actually find me. That meant I had to become visible. After attending my first few psychic fairs, I received a lot of positive feedback from clients. And then something beautiful started to happen. There were 2 mediums at the fair that started referring people to me for energy healing sessions. One of them even pulled me aside privately to tell me that my booth was filled with so much light and thanked me for the work that I was doing. I knew my work was heart-centered, but I hadn't realized how it was being perceived by others. And even though I wasn't looking for validation, that moment really encouraged me to keep going. Through that visibility, I started to build real confidence in myself. The first few times I struggled to get the words out and I was stumbling multiple times, but what mattered was that I was showing up and I told my community what I had to offer. When I first started out, I was offering Reiki sessions, tarot readings, and sound healing. Today, my offerings have evolved to just Reiki sessions, private sound healings, and now I am teaching Reiki certified classes. The one thing that I learned through offering readings is that my clients are looking for validation of things that they already know. And so many of the messages I was receiving from Spirit was that all they need to do is to turn inwards. So what I decided to do was to take a step back from readings and empower my clients to learn to trust themselves and to follow their own intuition. This is where my business began to evolve. Through all of this, I've learned that even as a busy entrepreneur, you still need to make time for yourself. And in order to do this, you need to set boundaries and you have to know your limits. I was so used to working the 9 to 5 hours, but what I realized with my business is that I was working almost every waking hour. So when I think about organizations that have a customer service representative, administrators, designers, event planners, and so on, it kind of boggles my mind that I am doing it all. So the reason why I wanted to bring this up is that you need to set boundaries. While it is great to work hard, it is not worth it if your health is compromised. I had one of the scariest health scares in my life 5 months after I fully launched my business. And I learned some very important things. I learned that even though this new venture was exciting, I still need to remember to take care of myself. With every new venture, it's learning to find balance all over again. It's becoming aware of yourself, knowing when it's time to take action, and when to slow down. One of the biggest lessons I've learned is that entrepreneurship takes courage. It takes courage to try new things and to put yourself out there, showing up each and every day. Through my work, I learned a lot about myself. I learned that it's okay to make mistakes and to keep going anyways. I learned that it takes a lot of trial and error, seeing what works and what doesn't work. It takes stepping outside of your comfort zone and facing your fears head on. Growth comes from doing the things that scare you the most and walking yourself through them anyways. I've witnessed my own transformation on this path, and looking back, I am so proud of myself. Through all of this, I've uncovered so much about running a business and the potential I have within myself. I've discovered that I could be courageous in ways that I never thought were possible. I faced so many roadblocks that I later realized were redirections. And although I know my business will continue to shift and evolve, I want to begin to share my process and my journey with you, to inspire you to follow your dreams. You don't have to be starting a business. You just have to be moving towards something that your heart desires. You may come up against people who don't believe in you, and that's okay. You are not here for their approval. You are here to follow your dreams, even if it feels scary to start. It doesn't mean that you're weak or that you can't do it or that you shouldn't do it. It just means that you haven't tried it yet. And choosing to do it, that takes courage. Trust that if you can dream it, you can have it, and the reward will be greater than anything you could imagine. Thank you so much for listening in. I hope you found this episode insightful. If you feel called to, please share this podcast, subscribe to it, and leave a rating and review. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, you can email me at healwithcare@gmail.com or follow me on Instagram at healwithcare. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next episode.